Hey friends, it's Mari Clark here, and today I'm going to be creating a card with the Picket Fence Studio Swallowtail Beauty stamp set, and I am designing this card for Not Too Shabby Shop, and I just love this Picket Fence stamp. When I saw this the first time, I absolutely fell in love with it. I love how big the stamp set is, and just this butterfly image is just so gorgeous. I'm also going to be using the LDRS Creative Anytime Stamp and Die set. And wow, this is also really super cool. I'm going to show you how this works during my process here today. So I'm going to use this stamp and die set for the sentiment for my card. So just showing you here again this gorgeous, gorgeous stamp. And I am going to stamp this onto kind of a watercolored look base. And so I'm going to start that off with some Fabriano Artistico watercolor paper. This is a cold press paper. And I'm going to use Lindy Stamp Gang Magicals to create my background. This is really fun powder. You just activate it with water and you get this really pretty, shimmery, beautiful watercolor look. Super easy to apply. And I'm going to use pink and yellow together. So I'm going to get pink, yellow and orange tones in my background, and I really like how this turns out. So my idea was to create this watercolor background and then stamp over top of it. So I'm working on my Tim Holtz glass mat here. I hesitate to use this mat in my filming process because you can really see the glare of my lights in the background or on the mat, but hopefully that's not too distracting or annoying for you. Let me know in the comments below what you think of that. Like I said, I really hesitate to use this in my process because of that. I use this mat, but not when I'm filming. So let me know what you think. But anyways, I've just sprinkled that powder off to the side of my glass mat, and I'm just picking some of the pigment up with this little brush. And you can see that I'm just spraying water right onto my watercolor paper, letting the pigment flow. And then I'm just taking some of the pink. The two colors that I'm using, I'm just seeing if I still have them on my desk. They are Papa Pink and California Poppy Gold, and just a couple of really beautiful, beautiful hues. Really love these two colors and how they mix together. And you can see there that I'm just using that brush to help me get them moving around. I wanted pigment on the whole surface, the whole area of this watercolor paper. And I'm going to get the paper really wet and then sprinkle the pigment right onto the paper, saturate that with some more water, and so on and so forth. So really love how this is going to look when it's all finished. So you can see my watercolor paper is buckling a little bit, but I'm okay with that. Once I use my heat tool here to dry this, it flattens out pretty good, and then I use some foam adhesive on it which completely flattens it, and you'll see that when I get there. So once again, just sprinkling that pigment right in there, just adding more water and, just letting these colors flow together. And I just love how this looks. I'm going to actually pick the paper up and let that flow, like I said. And it's almost done here. So now I'm just going to take my heat tool and give that just a little bit of shot of heat to speed up the heating process, or the drying process, and get that all dried so that I can move on to stamping my image. Now, I did not have my camera turned on when I stamped that Swallowtail Beauty out. I'm not really sure why I didn't, but I didn't. And so I am going to stamp out the stamp onto this background using some VersaFine Onyx black ink. I wanted an ink that was going to be just really super dark. And then I am going to, and really, stamps a nice crisp image. And then I also wanted to do some heat embossing with some clear embossing powder over top of the image to make the image just really shiny and pop off of this watercolor background. So I've got that all stamped now with that VersaFine ink, and I'm just going to take some clear embossing powder and dump that on the image here, and then I will just heat that up with my heat tool, melt that, and like I said, we will just have just a beautiful shiny embossed image for our butterfly here. So I did have my heat tool just heating up off camera before I went to the paper. I like to do that about the time when I'm putting the embossing powder on. I've got my heat tool running on my table, just getting heated up. And I have a little silicone mat that I put my heat tool on so that it doesn't vibrate off my table. This particular heat tool that I have has a little stand on it, and I just like to make sure that I get it really heated up before I use it on my paper. So heating the back and heating the front, getting that embossing powder all nicely melted. And now I'm just going to take my Tim Holtz trimmer and I'm just going to trim down my paper so that it's just kind of like where the stamp ends. And you can see how it's designed to go off the edge of your paper. And I love that. I think that's really cool and interesting looking. And I think it just creates a fantastic image for the focal point for a card front. So this is going to be the front of my card. I am going to map this onto some Gina K white layering cardstock. If you have not ever used this Gina K paper, it is amazing. Like, I mean, amazing. The texture of the surface of the paper is beautiful. It's like a velvet, and it is not expensive at all. You get a really large pack of it for, I actually will leave it linked down below so you can check it out. I'm obviously going off into my stash to find the paper right now where there's nothing happening. So there's that paper. It's just a really true white. And like I said, it's just beautiful as a layering piece in your projects. So I really love that paper a lot. And I'm just using my 3M tape here to pop this card front up onto my mat that I'm going to use there, that white paper. And I wanted to do this once again, like I said, just to make sure that my paper, my watercolor paper, is going to lie nice and flat on my mat that I'm going to use here for my card. So there we go. Got that all on there, and I'm just going to take that release paper off of there, stick that down, and then I trim that out and place that onto a Gina K cardstock base. The color of that cardstock is eluding me right now. I'm not really sure what color of pink that is, but I will leave that Gina K cardstock, the white and the pink, linked up in the description box below so that you can see what I used there. So I'm going to now take some white cardstock. This is Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and I'm going to stamp out those anytime stamp from LDRS Creative, and this has got all of those sentiments on it. Very, very cool. I love this. And you have to just make sure you get ink on those little black squares in the corners as well, because those little squares are going to help you line up the die. And so I'm just going to get this all stamped out. I'm actually going to stamp it twice just to make sure that I've got a really nice crisp image there. And once I've finished that, I am going to cut these out. I am using some VersaFine Clair ink in Nocturne to stamp the sentiments here. So I'm just going to take that off, and then I will use the dies there to cut out my sentiment. The sentiment that I'm using here is Celebrating Today with You. And I love these sentiment strips are so good. They are just fantastic. So I just actually popped that up on a little bit of foam adhesive. And now I'm going to just stick down 3 little Pretty Pink Posh Sparkling Clear sequins, I think. And just get those stuck down here using my Marvy jewel picker and my fine line bottle. Get those all stuck down, and my card is going to be finished. So I really love how this card turned out. I think it's super pretty. Love all of these products that I used today. I will leave things linked up in the description box below. And I will also, I'm just showing you all the sentiment strips I have left over. I love this stamp and die set. It's genius. I will leave a link down below to the Not Too Shabby shop and to the products that I used here today for my process. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have an amazing day. I do have a still shot of the photo coming up as well. And that's about it for me today, so I will see you again. Bye-bye.